We prepared as best we could, but man, were the sucker punches in full swing on this ride. This is John Delvecchio, author of Cornering Confidence and riding coach at the Street Skills Motorcycling School. The Street Skills Moto Show focuses on the most fun part about riding, the corners. I'll be sharing highlights from my book, situations that come up in my courses, and I'll even break down my own personal motorcycling experiences. Please subscribe and click on the notifications bell below to get the latest videos first. Has this ever happened to you or someone you know? You're approaching a nice right-hand corner, the pavement is dry, the sun is shining, you set up your line, you enter at just the right speed, you lean into it, and all of a sudden, what the F? An unforeseen hazard causes trouble. Unfortunately, lots of hazards can present themselves mid-corner. However, this video focuses on impossible surface surprise detection. I like to ask the students in my courses something that they specifically would like to work on with our time together. And this is one response from a student, let's call him Butch. He specifically states curves is where he wants to improve. I've fallen twice, both in curves when I hit gravel and locked the front wheel. I have not fallen since, but the stigma, fear of turns still remain. About a week ago, I took a road trip with some friends and we went to West Virginia, Ohio, and we were riding through Pennsylvania. And what you would normally consider friendly turns, the surface looked fine, it looked dry. We prepared as best we could, but man, were the sucker punches in full swing on this ride. And this kind of thing can really shake in your confidence because you feel like you've done everything right. And basically what happens is a mishap occurs and the rider wants to know what to fix. And they want to redo it. They want to play it out in their mind. They don't want it to happen again. But sometimes there is no fix when the road beneath your tires suddenly betrays you. Here are 4 things you can do to ease your mind and prepare as best you can for the impossible to detect. The type of turn we're talking about here, which I encountered on this last ride I took, they're blind turns. They're not ones with great sight distance, and we're kind of sure that we know it's going to tighten up. Maybe we can tell by our GPS or whatever. And from what happens before this curve, we can expect that the curve is going to be fine. However, on this particular trip we took, coming over a hill into a right-hander, this is sort of carved out of a hill or a mountain, if you will. And coming into this right-hander, gravel poured right here in the middle. There were some clues, but not many. Another situation, we came into a blind right-hander again. The road was destroyed. Right where this WTF is written. So from edge line to the center line, front to back, there was nowhere to go. You're leaned over, huge bumps. What are you going to do? And the third situation happened on a hairpin, which would be like this complete 180 type of turn on a familiar road in Pennsylvania, where coming from the left, we had a little bit more, we could see what was going on in there. But if you were coming from the right, it was covered with gravel and dirt and garbage the entire 180 degrees of this turn, which can be a real surprise for people, especially given that the road before and after is great. The first thing you can do is expect the road to suck. Sure, you can look for clues that the road surface is poor, but what makes these situations so bad is that, like I said, the road surface before and after the curve is usually excellent. Just remember that at any point, a portion of road can suck royally. This expectation can keep you from panicking when that happens. Comment below with any freaky surface hazards you've encountered mid-curve. The second thing you can do to handle mid-corner with the Fs is what I call my straight guiding principle at Street Skills. Keep this in mind. Lean angle is not your friend. Certainly, we have to lean a motorcycle to get it to turn through a curve. But less lean angle makes a sliding bike more recoverable. What I mean by that is if we go through a turn closer to upright, if something were to happen, we can do things to recover and regain traction. If we're leaned over, even let's say not even max lean angle, but God forbid your max lean angle and a slide were to occur, if you were to hit that gravel just right, it's more difficult to recover from that loss of traction. And the simple technique to straighten your motorcycle through a curve is to kiss the mirror, and that's something that you could look at my other videos for. The third thing to help you out in this situation is my second guiding principle of flat. And what that means is we want to keep the chassis as flat as possible as we're riding along, especially even if we're going into a turn. We may have a little slight bias forward, but we want to keep the chassis as flat as possible. And what that does is it keeps the suspension in its sweet spot, where it can more easily absorb those nasty mid-corner bumps that I was describing. And just to reflect back on this particular trip I took, the road was great. One right-hander, road destroyed in the apex. Pucker moment, the next curve, same thing. So just because you get one behind you doesn't mean the next one is going to be rosy. And I was very pleased that my suspension was still able to do its job because I was working to keep that flat chassis. Now, when your chassis is in extreme positions, they're less likely to deal with a what the F bump in the road, mid-turn, when you can't really do anything else. Now, a flat chassis is a little more difficult to achieve than straight, but what you want to do is start to make sure your braking and throttle are smooth regarding your cornering. The fourth and final thing you can do to relax a little bit about this freak thing that might happen in a corner is to dress for the slide. Why do racers wear full leathers? They certainly don't want to crash. Clearly, you don't want to ride that hard on the street, and full leathers are extreme, but how good is your gear? Look at your gear and honestly assess its protection value if you suddenly lost control and went down. Like everyone else, I pick and choose the level of gear that I'm going to wear, the level of protection. When I'm riding in the twisties, when I'm really wicking it up, having a good time, this is a sport ride, I'm taking a trip to do this, to ride these fantastic roads, I typically wear some pretty significant gear. I'll just point out a few things that I like to wear. Now, this is a Cali helmet. And one of the things I like about the Cali, it does lack some features of, I guess, the more comfortable helmets. But the Cali has a really advanced technological energy absorption system. And I just want that on my head if I run into something unexpectedly. I'd also like to say that I'm one of the only people I know that wears this Leatt STX road neck brace. I probably look ridiculous when I'm riding down the road, or if someone were to stop, I don't even know what's on once I'm in the twisties, but I just want that level of protection to protect my neck if that what the F pops up in the middle of the curve and I go down. They can be a hassle, but so is being stuck in a wheelchair the rest of your life. Then we have gloves. A lot of people, they don't want to spend the money on gloves, and I can understand why, because they're pretty expensive, but I won't ride without gauntlets. I like protection. If you talk to a friend who went down, they probably have some hand injuries if they weren't wearing some really good gloves with some pretty solid armor in them. Of course, riding boots are going to help you the best as well. Strong, sturdy jacket and pants. You know, a lot of times I don't even zip the two together, which is maybe something I want to start doing more. But unfortunately, crashing happens. Yes, it's embarrassing, it's painful, it's expensive. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to expect that's part of the game here. Well, there you have it. Some corners sucker punch you despite your prep and experience. To defeat these challenges, expect them, ride straight, ride flat, and dress for the slide. If I knocked your socks off with this video, like, dislike, subscribe, share, or preview my book, Cornering Confidence, at the link below. Thanks for watching.